Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The past human emperors nodded, sharing the same feeling. Even though every human emperor looked like they deserved a beating in the eyes of their masters, it was the first time they had met such a human emperor that deserved to be beaten by all of them. The past human emperors were all top-notch practitioners of their generations. It wasn't status that had commanded respect from other sects, but their abilities which were strong enough, sweeping away everyone in their age and rarely finding a worthy match. Any human emperor which hadn't fought a few rounds with the gods of high heavens would be too embarrassed to meet their ancestors after dying. Yet how many people were like this in a generation? Yet, Qin Mu, against overbearing strong practitioners like them, actually said he was afraid of injuring them. He even said that their techniques and divine arts had already fallen behind times, so how could they endure? Third ancestor came closer while saying indifferently, all the past human emperors are very haughty, and every one of them is overflowing with haughtiness after death, wanting to beat this and that. However, you are still the first one to say we are behind times. Human Emperor Qin, how remarkable. Disciple beating master is also common. For example me, I have beaten the old geezer before. However, to beat all the old geezers, human Emperor Qin's voice is not small. I would like to see if you actually have this ability. Fourth ancestor said indifferently. Third ancestor gave him a dark look. Second ancestor's expression was imposing as he said, human Emperor Qin is a living person, so how we fight is also another problem. However, first ancestor has a treasure that should still be around here. It's called Between Life and Death, and it can situate us between life and death, which would be the most suitable to exchange blows. The past human emperors all frowned. First ancestor is not here, so who can use Between Life and Death? Second ancestor smiled and said, as the disciple of first ancestor, I'm the owner of Sacred Hall of Five Young when he's not around, so I can naturally use it. Be quiet, I'm very familiar with this place, even more familiar than with my own home. Wait for me, let me fetch Between Life and Death. Everyone was slightly curious. They had heard of Between Life and Death but never seen this treasure before. They had heard that it was because first ancestor missed his wife that he crafted it to create a passage to Yudu so he could meet her there. However, his treasure didn't have much use or power, so people that crafted these kinds of items were few in numbers. Yet using Between Life and Death for living people and dead people to fight couldn't be any more clever. Not much later, second ancestor came back, and everyone saw that his hands were empty. They couldn't help being bewildered and asked suspiciously, second ancestor, where is Between Life and Death? This is Between Life and Death. Second ancestor's sleeves trembled, and a long river flew out from his sleeves. The huge river flew out of Sacred Hall of Five Young, becoming wider and wider. It stretched across several hundred miles and floated in the sky above Fengdu City. Everyone hurriedly walked out of Sacred Hall of Five Young where they saw a long river floating in the sky. It even had a flying bridge hanging above it. In the river, there was also a decorated pleasure boat that was berthed under the bridge. Everyone cheered and exclaimed, to meet with wife, first ancestor actually exhausted immense magic power to craft this treasure. Go, let's go up to the bridge. Qin Mu also followed them up. The moment they stepped on the bridge, something strange suddenly happened. He actually saw flesh and blood growing on his body. Upon coming to the living realm of the dead were revived and the living were changed into skeletons. Yet the river and the bridge could actually allow him to recover his flesh and blood. It was truly strange. The past human emperors stood on the bridge, but they didn't shed their flesh and blood too. They still had complete corporeal bodies. From that, it was evident that this was the marvelous ability of Between Life and Death. When I controlled Moon Ship to become Moon Guardian, I had to withstand the suppression of the living realm of the dead while keeping a body of flesh and blood. Looks like first ancestor's abilities are definitely much stronger than those of Moon Guardian. Qin Mu exclaimed in admiration in his head. First ancestor human emperor's abilities were profound mysteries. He was no doubt an outstanding talent of founding emperor era. However, this Between Life and Death isn't useless, instead, it's an effective implement. He blinked, and his heart pounded. He immediately thought of the greatest use of between life and death, which allowed Fengju to interfere with the world of the living, to interfere with reality. Between life and death could interfere with the world of the living and allow the gods of Fengju to descend on the world of the living. Even though the surface of the river wasn't huge, it was still extraordinary. Thinking about it, the gods and devils of Fengju were in tens of thousands. If they descended on the mortal world, who could be a match for them? If between life and death was used properly, it's an immensely powerful weapon. Qin Mu stood on the head of the bridge and looked at the river flowing toward Yudu. He could faintly see its darkness on the other side. The river was extremely wonderful, and it was obvious that it wasn't ordinary in any way. In Fengju City, countless gods and devils raised their heads to look at the huge river floating in the sky. It was gently floating and looked extremely elegant. Those human emperors again. The god lowered his head to look away. He then spoke to everyone in the surroundings. Ever since these fellows came to Fengju, more and more of them showed up, and they are becoming more and more arrogant. They are a force of our Fengju, but I'm afraid only those devils could be a match for them. No need to look, disperse, let them forget themselves in their fight. First Ancestor met his wife by sending this pleasure boat into Yudu to guide the souls of his wife out. They would then meet on the bridge. On the bridge between life and death, Second Ancestor's face dimmed. After the incident of their meetings being discovered by Yudu, the soul of Master's wife was taken away by the messengers of death. First Ancestor actually didn't know about this and still stood on the bridge to wait for her, but he didn't see nor hear her for dozens of years. At that time, I had stood beside the river and seen him growing older day by day. Let's not talk about this. He roused his spirit and looked at Qin Mu. He chuckled and said with a smile, "There's still an overlord body here that says we are all behind times. It's time to let a younger generation know the immensity of heaven and earth." Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu bathed in the fire of pure yang and saw flesh, blood, and meridians gradually appearing on his skeleton body. Looking down, he could even see the 5 viscera and 6 bowels in his ribs. Meanwhile, when he looked into the window of the hall where the gods and devils were hiding, their flesh and blood were gradually fading away, revealing white bones. The true fire of pure yang was harmless to him, but the corporeal bodies of the gods and devils of Fengju could be burned while their souls and primordial spirits could be incinerated. In the east, the huge sun became hotter and hotter until it was bright red. Incomparably huge palace halls could be faintly seen on the sun, and in front of them were giant drums. Valiant gods and devils were beating the drum frantically, sending the true fire of pure yang from the sun into Fengju. On the sun, there were 10,000 sacred halls, 10,000 drums, and 10,000 giants that were beating the drums frantically. True fire was spewed out and flooded Fengju. This is... Qin Mu's mind trembled. He suddenly heard a shriek and turned back to look. He saw the big ball of flesh that was Xing'an being burned by the true fire of pure yang. Dozens of faces distorted as they struggled and shrieked in pain. The many bodies were fading away after being burned by the true fire, revealing Xing'an's true body. Xing'an was also in unbearable pain. At that moment, he suddenly jumped up and splashed into the river of helplessness. The fog in the river under the bridge churned as monsters moved to swallow him. Xing'an? Qin Mu quickly came to the side of the river. The fog became thicker to defend against the flames of the sun, so he couldn't see any traces of Xing'an. He fell into Yudu. God Kai Xiao flapped his wings. The true fire of pure yang was ineffective against him, but he still hurried them. Faster, King Yama is still waiting for you. Qin Mu composed himself and followed him into Hall of King Qin. Inside it, King Yama was still clad in a black cape. His face and body were hidden in the darkness. Qin Mu looked around but didn't see any of the ghost kings. Kai Xiao, you may go now. King Yama sat on the throne in Hall of King Qin, so his voice came from high above. Understood. God Kai Xiao left Hall of King Qin. On the throne, King Yama flipped through a book which rustled. Only he and Qin Mu were left in, and he seemed to be perfectly fine from the rising sun. Qin Mu was anxious, but could do nothing. After a while, King Yama stood up, and the light in hall of King Qin became dim. Qin Mu instantly felt as though he was shrouded in darkness. "Are you from Carefree Village? Who is your father?" Qin Mu was slightly stunned, not understanding why he suddenly asked that. "My father is Qin Hanjin. My ancestral hometown should be Carefree Village, but I wasn't born there." "Qin Hanjin?" King Yama stared blankly at him as he said in a low voice, "Has it come to the generation of Han? Yu, De, Chang, Ming, Han, Feng, Huan, Zhen. The Qin of your generation should already be more than 100th generation." He picked up the book he was reading and searched for the Han word. "Han is the 106th generation, Feng is the 107th generation. Your original name isn't Qin Mu, since there should be a Feng word in your name." Qin Mu nodded, but he didn't say his original name. After meeting Grandmaster, he realized how dangerous it was to say his real name. With a person like King Yama who controlled Fengdu, it was even more dangerous. Even though there was Hall of King Qin and King Yama had the family history of Qin, Qin Mu still had to be careful. "It's right that you didn't tell me your name. The world is indeed abnormally dangerous," said King Yama. "My surname is also Qin, but it was given to me. I'm adopted. I was originally nothing at all, an orphan that was alone and had nobody to rely on. His Majesty allowed me to enter the family register of Qin family, so my name is on it." Qin Mu understood. He said he wasn't originally from the Qin family, but he was conferred the surname Qin and taken in as an adopted child. "It's been a long time since I saw a visitor from Carefree Village." King Yama walked to him at the front of the hall. Looking at the Fengdu being bathed in flames, he said, "I had originally thought His Majesty would come back to this place from Carefree Village, but I never expected that even after waiting for 20,000 years for him I would still not have seen him. Only his 107th descendant has come. When you used that Yudu divine art to seize a few souls from me, I noticed that your appearance looked similar to that of His Majesty, which was why I didn't stop you." Qin Mu still had some doubts and probed. "What you mean is founding emperor is still alive?" King Yama's face was shrouded in the black robe, and even the most intense flames couldn't penetrate into the darkness under it. "His Majesty is still alive. After Carefree Village was opened, he led the last gods out of this world, preserving his strength for a counterattack. His Majesty is powerful and wise, so he knew that danger was approaching long before it came, so he had ordered me to open up Fengdu, making a place for the gods that couldn't leave in time to hide until the day we will rise again. This wait has lasted for 20,000 years. You said you weren't born in Carefree Village earlier, so where were you born?" Qin Mu was silent for a moment before saying astringently, "Yudu." Even King Yama couldn't help being astonished. He suddenly turned to look at Qin Mu, and the black cape fluttered up with a wave motion as though it was being blown by the wind. "Yudu? You weren't born in Carefree Village but in Yudu?" Qin Mu still couldn't see the face under the black robe and just nodded. "My parents were headed to Great Ruins from Carefree Village, but they were ambushed on their way. The casualties were high, and the lucky survivors escaped into Yudu. I was then born there." He had discovered his birth in Ghost Valley, and from the time trace in that ship, his mother Ha still been holding him in her womb. The precious ship suffered the attacks of gods and devils, getting struck down to the bottom of Ghost Valley, embedding itself between the seal of the two worlds. To avoid the extraterritorial devils, his mother led the people of the ship to seek refuge in Yudu. Qin Mu should have been born in Yudu, but he didn't know how he was brought to Great Ruins after he was born and floated down surging river to disabled elderly village. Granny Sai had heard the cries of an infant and picked him up to bring to the village. He was born in Yudu, and there was no doubt about that. "You were born in Yudu," the tone of King Yama held some disappointment. "I thought it would be an old swallow returning to lead us into battle, finishing what wasn't done. Never did I expect to see a new swallow. It would have been as well, but in the end, it wasn't a new swallow either, just one chick. Hee, founding emperor, you are really carefree in Carefree Village, having already forgotten that you still have people waiting for you in this world to make a comeback." His tone was slightly angry. Carefree Village is not a tender village nor an unmoved village. It's a place for you to make a comeback and not a place for you to sink into oblivion. In Great Ruins, there are still countless gods and devils that are waiting silently for you to return. They are waiting for you to raise your flag and fight. His cape was still fluttering. Only when his heart was roused or when his fighting spirit was overflowing would his cape tremble violently. Suddenly, his aura weakened, and he became slightly dispirited. I don't believe an emperor who had founded an era would be willing to accept defeat and become silent. Yet, I have already waited for 20,000 years, and the stone statues in Great Ruins and the ghosts in Fengdu have also waited 20,000 years. Why have you not returned? Qin Mu looked at him quietly, not knowing what to say. King Yama had been anticipating a guest from Carefree Village and hoping for the news of founding emperor for 20,000 years. Yet what he found was only Qin Mu, a person that was born in Yudu although he had the bloodline of founding emperor. Qin Mu wasn't the person he was waiting for. Even if it was Qin Hanjin, at least he could encourage him and bring news of Carefree Village. Yet Qin Mu, who was born in Yudu, was completely clueless about Carefree Village. The identity of founding emperor's descendant couldn't suit the heart of loyal soldiers that had waited for 20,000 years. After a long time, King Yama's breath returned to normal. The eyes under the black robe shifted to Qin Mu as he said, "You were born in Yudu, and it is the same Fengdu. They are both the worlds of the dead. I have never heard of humans being born in the world of the dead. Let me see if there's anything wrong with you." Qin Mu stared blankly as he didn't understand him. Suddenly, King Yama started walking around him and speaking in a solemn voice. "There are few people in Yudu, but monsters can be born in Yudu. They are a combination of spirits and Yudu's devil nature. You have seen the monsters under Bridge of Helplessness which are from Yudu. You being born in Yudu is different from how those monsters were born from the grievances of heaven and earth and the devil nature. You were born from the womb, but you might be contaminated by the devil nature of Yudu." "Contaminated by the devil nature of Yudu?" Qin Mu probed. "What you mean is..." He was slightly shocked. A devil god had once said that he was a devil just like him. Had it been not lying, and he actually had devil nature on him? And he had it since the moment he was born? King Yama didn't continue speaking. Instead, he lifted the hood of the black robe and revealed his face beneath it. Before Qin Mu could see it, the two eyes were like swirling whirlpools which sucked his mind inside. "Don't be scared. I'm just exploring your soul to see if it's different from humans who are born in the normal world." Qin Mu felt his world spinning as though he was situated in the center of two eyes. They were scarlet like blood and strangely large. The pupils looked at him with from the left and right while he was spinning continuously, unable to fall to the bottom. He seemed to just go down into boundless darkness with a never-ending sinking sensation. When King Yama spoke, his words seemed to be extremely far from him, even further than the 9 heavens above. "There has been no human that was ever been born in Yudu before, and I don't know what happens when a human is born in Yudu. However, I can guess that when you were born, something extremely terrifying happened. The devil nature and souls roaming around in Yudu would have tried to enter your body. Your mother should have been able to defend against the roaming souls in Yudu, but she might not have been able to keep the devil nature away. I want to see what Yudu has done to you." Qin Mu tried his best to stabilize his mind, and the jade pendant on his neck suddenly floated up. The light hummed as it burst outward as though it was defending him against King Yama's blood eyes. The two blood eyes grew bigger, and the light of the jade pendant got brighter. In the end though, the two blood eyes of King Yama suppressed the light of the jade pendant. Qin Mu wanted to struggle, but he couldn't muster any strength at all. He could only let the two nightmare-like blood eyes to continue prying and suppressing him. He felt that his corporal body didn't have any strength, as though it had been detached from his soul. It felt as though he was drowning and couldn't breathe anymore. His soul was slowly floating out of his corporeal body. At that moment, Qin Mu suddenly stopped spinning and whispers came from his surroundings. It was like countless devils hidden in the boundless darkness were talking in low voices. Those whispers gradually came closer, growing louder and louder, noisier and noisier. They finally became countless voices that bombarded him with different words in different languages, splitting his head with the pain. They were so noisy that his thoughts and consciousness were becoming scattered and messy. Finally, all of the voices overlapped together and became a single one. It was Yudu's devil language. "Shut up!" Qin Mu shouted out angrily, but what came out from his mouth wasn't the language of humans. It was Yudu's devil language. Suddenly, terrifying energy burst out from his body, and it could suddenly move. He was still located between the two blood eyes, standing there solitarily. Behind him was boundless darkness, but a seam split apart in the there. It opened up, and whispers began again. The seam grew bigger and bigger, until light flowed out. With a hum, a huge eyeball appeared behind him and rotated left and right. That eye presented a strange pupil, and that was 3 pupils squeezed together. They were also rotating while changing their directions. Devil light emanated from the eye as though there were black butterfly wings growing from its sides. It was pretty and flirtatious yet extremely strange. "Shut up!" Qin Mu hugged his head while shouting angrily. "Stop being noisy!" Whoosh! The space in the surroundings trembled violently like cracking glass. King Yama was shocked by the power in that roar and could only stare blankly at the bewitching eye behind him. He muttered, "You were born in Yudu and are indeed affected by Yudu's devil nature. It is in your body, but it was being suppressed by the jade pendant. Now that I've suppressed the jade pendant, I've released your devil nature. Stop being noisy." The Yudu's devil language from Qin Mu's mouth flowed smoothly like never before, and when his voice rang out, the space in the surroundings instantly shattered. The time and space created by the blood eyes of King Yama crumbled. Behind him, another seam appeared as another eye was about to open. King Yama felt his hair stand on ends. It was as if he was standing in front of a huge, terrifying beast that was about to wake up. "What fierce devil nature! I can't let you out!" He made his move brazenly, and the 2 blood eyes withdrew rapidly. His cape fluttered and covered the heaven and earth, shrouding the entire hall of King Qin. He mobilized all his strength to suppress the devil nature in Qin Mu's body. A voice full of the devil nature came from Hall of King Qin in fluent Yudu. "Merely a small ghost and you dare to suppress me." Boom! Hall of King Qin trembled violently as another rumble rang out. Hall of King Qin trembled a few more times, and the pillars inside fell left and right. The roof of the hall suddenly split, and the hall shuddered as though it could collapse any time. Soon though, the hall regained its peace. Qin Mu opened his eyes and looked around in a daze. In front of him, a few huge pillars had broken as though sliced into pieces by sharp claws. There were a few more that were bent from being smashed. There was true fire of pure yang leaking in through the cracks within Hall of King Qin, burning the wood with tongues of flame. It looked as if there had been a huge battle as creaks came from the roof. Lumps of dust and bricks fell from time to time. What happened? Qin Mu was at a loss. Don't you know what had happened? King Yama's voice came from the darkness. Qin Mu immediately looked over and saw King Yama embedded in the center of a bent pillar. It seemed as though he'd been smashed against it by a terrifying power. Qin Mu was dumbstruck and immediately went forward, wanting to help him, but King Yama waved his hand and struggled out of the pillar himself. Do you really not know what happened? Qin Mu shook his head. He was completely clueless. He only remembered King Yama's eyes looking at him as he continued to sink between them. It's also good that you don't know. Keep the jade pendant of Carefree Village with you all the time. You cannot lose it. No matter what, you can't lose it. King Yama let out a shaky breath and said calmly, this jade pendant is of utmost importance to you. If you lose it, terrifying things will happen. Qin Mu pushed his jade pendant back under his clothes and asked, can I show the jade pendant to others? King Yama trembled violently, and he said sternly, it's best not to. Qin Mu smiled then. I have taken the jade pendant off to show others numerous times before. King Yama let out another shaky breath. That is their luck, and they should celebrate still being alive. You can go now. Kai Xiu, send him out. God Kai Xiu popped his head in and looked around curiously. When he saw the miserable situation of Hall of King Qin, he shrunk his neck back and said, "Cult Master Qin, follow me." Qin Mu had doubts. He hurriedly walked out of Hall of King Qin and asked God Kai Xiao in a low voice, "What happened just now?" "I have no idea." Kai Xiao shook his head and said, "Seems like some terrifying existence attacked Hall of King Qin." "Don't speak, you have the smell of a human." Also, King Yama's voice came from behind. "You can walk into the darkness of great ruins and it won't injure you at all. If there's a chance, you should take a trip to Yudu." Qin Mu was slightly stunned. He turned back to cry out, "I can enter the darkness of great ruins." Before King Yama could reply, a loud rumble suddenly came from behind them, and Hall of King Qin crumbled straight on the ruler of Fengdu. Qin Mu was astonished. He turned to look at Kai Xiao, but the god buried his head in his feathers, pretending to see nothing. For Kai Xiao to be the trusted aide of King Yama, his reputation wasn't undeserved. He was firm in not looking at King Yama's sorry form, which was the wise method of protecting oneself. If it were other people, they would have rushed into the debris to save King Yama. Qin Mu sighed ruefully in his heart. Saving King Yama would show that one was loyal, but the person would also see the sorry state of King Yama, causing damage to his wise and strong image. There were merit and demerit to it, but since one wouldn't know if the merit or demerit would be bigger, the best was to pretend one didn't see anything. Besides, the collapse of the hall wouldn't hurt King Yama, so it was better to not show one's loyalty by rushing over to him. King Yama said that I can walk through the darkness of great ruins and not get hurt. Is this true or not? Qin Mu was slightly hesitant because going into the darkness concerned his life. If it wasn't true, he would die if he went out, so he didn't dare to try. Ever since he was young, he had been taught by the villagers of disabled elderly village about how there were great terrors in the darkness and he was not to go in no matter what. On top of that, during Qin Mu's growth, he had also seen the horror of the darkness, so he had never even considered the possibility that the darkness might not touch him. He had entered the darkness numerous times, but he had always relied on treasures or strong practitioners that were like gods to protect himself from being closed in on by the darkness. He'd used Shingen's chest, village chief's protection, or dragon-rearing sovereign's protection to remain unharmed. He was somewhat afraid of attempting to enter the darkness without any protection. "Let's go," Kai Xiao hurried him. "After sending you off, I can rest." "God Kai Xiao, I still have to go to where Heavenly Saint Cult and the human emperors are to fetch the dragon Qilin and the chest." Kai Xiao could only bring him to where the past cult masters of Heavenly Devil Cult stayed. All the doors were locked tight, and the dragon Qilin was shut outside by the young patriarch. He was currently wagging his tail and saying sweet things to get patriarch to open the door. The young patriarch didn't acknowledge him no matter what, only shouting from inside, "In the journey of life and death, I'm already dead while you are still alive, so we can't be together. Follow Cult Master out." The dragon Qilin clawed at the door and cried loudly. The young patriarch was also choking as he held back his tears. He wanted to open the door, but he was afraid that the fellow would come in and rub against him again, so he steeled his heart. Qin Mu called the dragon Qilin over and said with a smile, "Fatty dragon, no need to be sad. Patriarch is living fine here and we are living perfectly fine outside. We can always come to see him anytime in the future." The dragon Qilin walked over. When he was touched by the true fire of pure yang, flesh slowly grew on his body. The incomparably huge sun had risen very high by then and become so large that it looked like it could fall out of the sky at any moment. Qin Mu raised his head and saw that the sacred halls on the sun were made of gold. The gods and devils in front of them could be faintly seen still beating the drums frantically. They were using the true fire of pure yang to refine Fengdu. The sun was so close to them that Qin Mu began suspecting that the gods and devils on the sun would attack at any moment. "They don't dare to attack." God Kai Xiao pruned his feathers calmly, unruffled in the mid of the chaos. "This is Fengdu, which is part of Yudu. They look close, but they are actually very far away. There's a world barrier between us. On top of that, we have fought a few times in the past, and they were the ones on the losing end. They only dare to hide in the sun and beat their drums." Qin Mu was puzzled about it, So he asked, the sun in this sky is different from the one in eternal peace, so this sun is the sun of great ruins. It's real, God Kaishio said. The sun of eternal peace is fake. Qin Mu was speechless. The sun before him was too terrifying. Luckily, they were living in the facade of the sun, moon, and stars. Otherwise, if the people of eternal peace saw such a terrifying sun, even the emperor might go crazy. Patriarch, do you have money? Qin Mu asked through a slit in the door. Entering Fengdu requires Fengdu gold coins and I only had 3 to get here. I need coins to take the boat. The young patriarch stuffed a few gold coins out through the slit. I just died so I don't have much money, be thrifty. Qin Mu acknowledged it and went to knock on the other cult masters' doors. Fellow cult masters, if you don't pay up, I'll stop your offerings and dismantle your memorial tablets. You scum, who bullies their ancestors? Isn't it just money? Take it. Qin Mu knocked on every door and extorted about 200 Fengdu gold coins. He then went to the residences of the human emperors and asked the strange beasts in front of Sacred Hall of 5 Yuan, is first ancestor back? The 2 strange beasts ran into the hall and threw the Daotai out. Old Master still hasn't returned. The Daotai landed on the ground and got burned by the true fire of Pyongyang. With a few bangs, it turned back into a huge chest that followed obediently behind the dragon Chelin. Cult Master Qin, it's time to leave. Kai Xiao hurried him. God Kai Xiao, please wait a moment. Qin Mu went to second ancestor's home who opened the door but didn't walk out as he was worried about being burned by the true fire of Pyongyang. Both of my sleeves are flowing in the breeze, and I really don't have money, so I can only go to teacher's house to freeload. Qin Mu took out a few Fengdu gold coins and smiled. I know you have noble character and unquestionable integrity, so I'm here to give you a few gold coins to tide through this period of time. When I go back to Hall of Human Emperors, I'll burn some money for all the ancestors. Second ancestor was delighted and hurriedly took the gold coins. You are much more filial than Little Su. Little Su isn't back yet, but when he returns, we are planning to give him a huge surprise. Second ancestor, don't forget to tell village chief I came by. Don't worry, I'll definitely tell him. Second ancestor promised through gritted teeth. Qin Mu hesitated before saying, Second ancestor, can you lend me first ancestors between life and death? I would like to do business. Second ancestor was puzzled. How would you use between life and death for business? Qin Mu smiled. There are many gods and devils in Fengdu who can't go to the world of the living, so I would like to use between life and death as a bridge for the divine arts practitioners to make deals through it. Divine arts practitioners can take their gold coins or learn their divine arts, paths, and techniques in payment for helping those already passed on fulfill their wishes. I think this could be a big business. I plan to pave a road through Great Ruin, so I require some money to subsidize the expenses. Second ancestor was still puzzled and asked, where will the money come from? The divine arts practitioners will have to pay an entrance fee to use between life and death, and I will earn a huge amount from it. Second ancestor came to a realization and scolded him with a smile, you wily brat. Qin Mu smiled and said, between life and death can connect Fengdu to the world of the living, so second ancestor can collect money here too, taking entrance fee from the gods and devils. Like that, you can also earn a huge amount. Even if I don't give offerings, you guys could live comfortably. In just a few years' time, all the ancestors would become the richest tycoons in Fengdu. Second ancestor was dumbfounded and cried out, collecting money from both sides? Such a good deal? Won't people be jabbing our spine and scolding us? Between life and death is in our hands, and there's only this road that can connect the world of the dead and the world of the living. Even if they scold, they will still have no choice but to take our road and pay us. Second ancestor hurriedly rushed out, braving the true fire of Pyongyang, to get to first ancestor's sacred hall of 5 Yuan. He cared not for the blazing fire all over him as he dashed into the hall to fetch between life and death. The lips of the 2 huge beasts guarding the door twitched, and they said, Second master, old master only had this much of property left. You will bleed him dry sooner or later. Second ancestor smiled at them. My master still regards me as an outsider? When I'm rich, you guys will benefit as well. Qin Mu took between life and death, which was a small river that was about 3 yards long. There was a boat and a bridge within it. Second ancestor then instructed him, refine this between life and death first. When you perform the rites, I will be able to sense it over here. Remember, perform the rites at night. If you perform it in the day, you'd see the same sight as right now. The gods on the sun would burn us and we wouldn't be able to do any business. Qin Mu acknowledged it and hung the long river on his body. Second ancestor, wait for my news. Second ancestor woke up at that moment and said immediately, business is a small matter. Don't spend too much effort on this and focus on your cultivation. Leave collecting money to others. Qin Mu nodded and said, I understand. After saying so, he took out some more Fengdu gold coins. Second ancestor, please hand these over to the other ancestors for them to tide over these few days. Human Emperor Qin is considerate. Qin Mu bade farewell, and God Kai Xiu sent him to the boundary stone of the living realm of the dead. After going past here, there will be no more true fire of pure yang. Just take the boat back. Qin Mu gave his thanks. After walking out of the living realm of the dead, his corporeal body returned to normal. He waved to God Kai Xiu, who spread his wings to fly away. The dock was nearby, and Qin Mu called the lone boat in the sea of fog. The skeleton Daoist Jing steered the boat over, carrying him, the dragon Chelin, and the chest to the opposite shore. When they came there, Qin Mu disembarked from the boat and took out 3 gold coins to pay the fare. Daoist Jing was astonished and immediately said, they are not human, so there's no need to pay. Qin Mu smiled and said, Daoist, just take them. Daoist Jing hurriedly accepted his payment before probing him. Human Emperor Qin struck a windfall? Qin Mu laughed loudly. I'm going to get rich. Daoist, farewell. Daoist Jing saw him off and put away the gold coins properly while thinking to himself, another few hundred years, and I will be able to buy a house in Fengdu too. God Kai Xiu returned to Hall of King Qin and saw that the collapsed building had already returned back to normal. God Kai Xiu carefully walked over and saw King Yama standing at the back of the hall, looking at the flames behind the door. Visitor from Carefree Village, very interesting, King Yama suddenly said. Even though he wasn't born in Carefree Village, his lineage is still that of founding emperor. He's extraordinary. From just this short meetup, I actually have great expectations for him. If it was his father that had come, my expectations may be big, but I would still have become dispirited afterward. Yet now, even though I was disappointed when he arrived at first, my anticipation is only going to grow and grow. God Kai Xiu didn't understand. This cult master Qin, Human Emperor Qin, has a temper that jumps all over the place, so why is King Yama holding expectations for him? He stayed half a day in Fengdu and beat up all the past human emperors, smashed the palace of cult master Zhu Yang, and beat up the past heavenly devil cult masters. He even went to extort money from the past cult masters and asked for between life and death, planning to connect the world of the dead and the world of the living to do some business. Isn't this fooling around? King Yama turned around and said with a smile, Fengdu is too cold and cheerless, so let him play crazy and some unexpected changes might happen. I have never seen such an interesting person with such ideas. Maybe he can achieve what others couldn't. Besides, the secrets about him aren't as simple as he thinks. This makes me look forward to him even more. God Kai Xiu was astonished. King Yama will really allow him to connect Fengdu to the world of the living for him to do his business. King Yama waved his hands and didn't speak anymore. Even though the sun had risen, darkness covered Yudu. There was no sky, no land, no sun, moon, or stars. Xing'an floated in the darkness, but at that moment, a faint voice rang out, waking him up. Xing'an, wake up. This video will end here.